Good afternoon and welcome. We also want to welcome the thousands of community members tuning in across platforms. As we get started, feel free to chat in your name, your community, your organization, and how you heard about the challenge. As a reminder, United Way is moderating the chat on our platforms that we are streaming to. So feel free to chat in if you have questions. We have several colleagues who are here to answer and support you along the way during our time together today. Congressman John Lewis spoke about his life's work and not seeing the full impact of it in his lifetime. The journey and fight toward equity is constant, long-term, and difficult. This challenge is a tangible space in action in the name of furthering equity. And you are joining us on that journey. Thank you. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. And I would love to introduce Dr. Hudson, Chief Executive Officer of United Way for Southeastern Michigan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Darian Hudson, President and CEO of United Way for Southeastern Michigan. I'm so pleased to see all of you here with us today on day one of our first ever 21-day equity challenge. I, for one, am excited, hopeful, and humbled, and can't wait for all of us to step into this journey together. This opportunity to learn and grow together comes at a pivotal time. The disparities highlighted by the pandemic, combined with the horrific images of violence over this last year, have intensified the nation's focus on issues of inequity and social justice. We're at a critical moment where we have an opportunity to come together to discuss these problems that have plagued us for far too long, and we must seize this opportunity. The deep racial scars and tensions that permeate our culture must be addressed if we're going to successfully move forward as a community. This is a raw and deeply personal moment, but if we channel our pain, our frustration, and our best thinking into action, we can also begin to heal. That is why we're here today, to take a step together toward healing and towards justice by taking the Equity Challenge. Our team at United Way began exploring the idea of hosting this challenge to create a shared learning experience for our own staff. Our United Way was founded more than 100 years ago. Like most institutions, we have history, both good and bad. And we know we have learning and growing to do if we're ever going to address the issues and the challenges that face our community. We do not profess to be experts and recognize that there's room for improvement. But we are committed to being much more focused and intentional around issues of equity and racial justice. In fact, many of our partners, large corporations, small family businesses, nonprofits, and community centers also want to find ways to improve. It's on everyone's minds. The Equity Challenge is an opportunity for all of us to push our thinking and to learn and grow together. As a lifelong educator, I believe, and I know in my heart that knowledge can change the world, not just through what we learn from books and from lessons, but what we learn from each other. Throughout the next 4 weeks, we'll spend time each day learning on our own as we go through the 21 days of this challenge. But we will also come together weekly through facilitated roundtables to talk about what we've learned and to share our stories. Let us all here today make the commitment to ourselves and to our communities to evolve and to listen, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and to unlearn what we think we know. Let's be bold and use this experience to create change within ourselves, our homes, our work, and our community. I wish to thank all of the United Way staff, our board and our campaign cabinet members, and our equity champions, and the numerous partners, particularly strategic community partners and the Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion, who have helped make this challenge a reality. And thank you, of course, to all of you who are joining us here today. It lifts my spirits to know that so many of my fellow Metro Detroiters care about growing themselves and making a difference in our region. At United Way, we work to build communities where every family can succeed and every child can thrive. We know that addressing the gross inequities that marginalize so many across our community is essential to our success. It starts from within, but it doesn't end there. We have to do the work and use our voices and our platforms for change. Thank you for being one of the thousands who are joining us on this insightful journey. Together, we can take a meaningful step forward on the path to build a more equitable, just, and inclusive region, one that works for all of us, one person at a time, one day at a time. Thank you, stay safe, and continue to live united.
And without further ado, we are going to move along in our program, and I'm going to pass it over to Tanya Adair, Chief People, Equity, and Engagement Officer at United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Tanya?
Thank you, Chanel. We began this journey of reflection long before the pandemic, lifting inequities as it relates to the ALICE data, which shows that more than 43% of households in our region struggle to meet basic needs. This was pre-pandemic. However, as with everyone else, our worlds paused as we watched the unveiling of disproportionate health disparities related to COVID-19, coupled with the lack of access to health care, lack of access to resources, technology, and education for Black and Brown communities especially, and the rising political and racial tensions all over the world. All of this shine a spotlight on the inequities that play a historical and enduring role in our economy, our culture, and so many other aspects of our lives. Last summer, we began having conversations in a format called Humankind Huddles with our staff and board, engaging in emotional dialogue about the inequities that we witness along with the rest of the world. But for many of us, these inequities and the lack of inclusion has lived with us for the majority of our lives. We had a group of about 70 staff members who raised their hand to continue the discussions and sharing of resources to help one another cope with our reality, but also to begin a process of helping one another to heal. From there, a committee was established and work groups formed to provide various resources and activities to help us internally, to help our staff continue the important conversations and lift our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And today, we're so excited to share our learning journey and officially launch our DEI efforts with the Southeastern Michigan community. Today, I want to give a special thank you to United Way's Equity Challenge team. So our committee of current and former staff members who champion this work researched to create the curriculum, lay the foundation for this successful launch today. I also want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors who've shared their time and resources to make this event possible and helped to raise more than $70,000 to host this 21-day equity challenge and future efforts. Thank you to our equity partners who were early adopters to lift their commitment to the work and encouraged 100% participation of their staff members with dedicated time for staff to participate throughout the 21 days. And lastly, I want to thank a group of amazing United Way staff responsible for leading our own internal learning journey over the last year. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion co-chairs of Kenya Abbott, Dan Collins, Jordan Falby, and Stephanie Rawls, whom you will hear from shortly. Through the challenge, our goal is to increase knowledge and understanding of how inequities have contributed to our society and local communities, while we also discover ways to actively support a more equitable community and society for all. As an expression of United Way's commitment to this journey, we have established a diversity, equity, and inclusion department that is now fully staffed as of this week and led by our first senior director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, none other than the incomparable Andre Ebron, an amazing community leader and change agent who is passionate about leading this journey with the United Way team. You will hear from him shortly, but first, I want to turn it over to one of our 4 co-chairs who bears her own lived experiences and actively serve as an ally and force for change to impact the lives of others, none other than Ms. Stephanie Rawls, Manager of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Engagement at United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Stephanie, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for that wonderful introduction and for sharing all of the great work that's happened at United Way so far. Very excited to be here today and excited that we're finally kicking off this equity challenge. It has been months and months of hard work and dedication from so many of our staff at United Way and all of those partners that Tanya lifted. So before we jump further into our kickoff, I wanted to share a little bit of history with you all about the equity challenge itself. So where did this come from? Why are we doing this in our community? Well, the challenge is a proven concept and it has roots with Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. So Dr. Moore serves as the director of the Privilege Institute in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He found something called the White Privilege Conference. In Dr. Moore's work, his original idea was to help people understand topics that surround equity, inclusion, and racial equity in a way that helps us build a muscle, a way that helps us build long-lasting habits where we're dedicating our lives to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that's why the challenge happens over 21 days. It's to stretch out that learning because we know that any good habit takes time and practice to become a habit. And that is what the equity challenge is trying to help us achieve when it comes to engaging in concepts related to DEI. Building off of Dr. Moore's work, United Way actually launched the Equity Challenge in January of 2020. Our partners over at United Way for Washtenaw County launched the very first Equity Challenge within the United Way network. So we're grateful for them for launching the first one and really putting out into the network that there is work to be done and that United Way can be really the convener of bringing folks together to talk about issues related to equity and inclusion. Part of this work is that we recognize that every person who is joining us today, all of you on the call, are at your own journey in understanding equity and inclusion. It's truly our hope that no matter where you are on your journey, what your lived experiences are, that you can gain something new from this challenge and be able to further yourself and be a better commitment to your community. So at this time, it's my great pleasure to hand it over to Andre Ibram, our Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Andre?
Good afternoon, everyone. And Stephanie, thank you so much for that background and that history. And to Tanya, thank you for the warm welcome and the entire team for welcoming me as the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Now, what is the 21-Day Equity Challenge exactly? Well, it is free and open to everyone, and you all are now participating in the external kickoff that took months and months of planning. Now, throughout this challenge, you will receive daily email prompts with resources, a call to action, a discussion, and for introspection and reflection. Now, who and why should you participate? The COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with rising political and racial tensions, have now shined a spotlight on the inequities that play a historical and enduring role in our economy and culture and many other aspects in our lives. Our goal in this 21-day challenge will help you increase your knowledge and understanding of equity and discover new ways to actively support in your community. Now, some of the topics that will be covered: personal, racial, and social identity, bias and privilege, race relations in the history of Metro Detroit, racism and inequity in housing, healthcare, childcare and education, gender, LGBTQIA plus community, disability inequity, and here's where you can become an active part. You'll learn how to become a better ally and develop racial equity. Literally, this challenge will be what you make it. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of people that have joined us on this journey. As we prepare, I would share with you, listen, there are 4,000 plus people that have raised their hand and signed up and said, I will take the challenge. My question to those that are listening that have not signed up yet is, will you take the challenge? Again, thank you all, and I put it back into the capable hands of our Manager of Diversity, Equity, and inclusion, and also she participates with increasing our engagement. Steph, the ball is back in your court.
Thank you so much, Andre. We just heard Andre say something that's really sticking out to me. Andre, you said that the challenge is what you make it. And so we're going to shift gears a little bit in this next section together to self-reflection, because the challenge not only is what you make it, but to really digest this material, we encourage you to self-reflect throughout the entire challenge so that you can make connections across all of the different learning and experience that you have in your life and apply this to future situations. So with hundreds, if not thousands of community members tuning in right now, we want to make sure that we provide that space for reflection so that you can get into that habit and learn how to do that on your own. So even though we're virtual, we're still going to do that reflection now. And I hope that you have space where you're at right now today to do so. So take a moment, look around you. What's going to happen in a minute is I'm going to ask you some questions and give you a few minutes to respond on your own. Now, everyone reflects differently. If you're someone who needs to write this down, grab a piece of paper nearby, grab your journal. If you're someone who likes to do it electronically, pull up that Word doc, however that works for you, set your space up and get ready to go. So what's going to happen here in a minute? I'm going to pose a question one at a time, and there's going to be a slide up on the screen that will have that question as well. I'm going to give you about 1 to 2 minutes to self-reflect on that question. Once you're done reflecting, we encourage you to share your response in the chat, and you can go back and forth and talk with others in the chat about your reflection. And this is hopefully going to provide an opportunity to create some virtual engagement together today. Also, after the time is done for each question, I'm actually going to have the opportunity to invite up a participant who is on the line, who's also serving as a facilitator for our Friday roundtables, that will share their reflection with you as well. All right, so we're going to move now to the very first reflection question. So question number 1, it should be showing up on your screen. There we go. Thank you so much. So why did you accept the challenge in the first place? So take about 1 or 2 minutes for yourself. Why did you accept the challenge? Why are you here today? And I will give you a warning when we're coming up to our time. All right, you all, you have about 1 more minute for self-reflection for question number 1. Just a reminder and an encouragement, please put your reflection in the chat if you're comfortable doing so. We've got about 40 more seconds till I invite up our first person to share their reflection with us. All right, y'all, I hope that you're wrapping up your thoughts for our very first question. Why did you accept the challenge? It's my pleasure now to invite up Shaban Olair. Shaban is a participant of our Equity Challenge, but Shaban is also serving as a community roundtable facilitator. As I mentioned, those are happening on Fridays. Shaban, can you please come up and share with us your answer to this question?
Hi, yes, my name's Siobhan. I have the pleasure of being a community facilitator for the challenge. I also serve as the director of People in Education based here in Detroit. I'm really inspired by the work of Grace Lee Boggs, who said, you must transform yourself to transform the world. And that's part of the reason why I accepted this challenge, because I am personally and professionally committed to advancing racial and social justice, which means I'm always looking for opportunities and spaces to learn and unlearn, to expand and challenge my perceptions. And it's a lifelong journey. Particularly as a white woman, I'm also committed to putting in action and labor into that work. And that's why I'm here to be a community facilitator, which allows me to help hold space with my community and embrace curiosity, connection, and the discomfort that's necessary for our individual and collective change.
Thank you so much, Siobhan, for joining us today and sharing your reflection with the group. At this time, we are going to move to question number 2. So just as before, you're going to have a couple of moments to reflect on your own. Question 2 is, why do you believe conversations like these are important? And conversations like these can mean a variety of things, but really we're talking about conversations related to diversity, equity, inclusion, racism, sexism, other forms of inequity. Why is it important that we're having these conversations with colleagues, friends, family, whoever it is that comes to mind for you? All right, folks, you got about 2 minutes to respond to this question. And just as before, please feel free to use that chat. We encourage you to be as open as you'd like in the chat, and vulnerability and authenticity is always appreciated. All right, folks, we are going to give you about 30 seconds to wrap this one up. So why do you believe conversations like these are important? All right, as you're wrapping up your thoughts, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you all again another person who is going to serve with us as a facilitator during the Equity Challenge. At this time, I'd love to welcome Brandon Lane, who's going to share with us why they believe conversations like these are important. Brandon?
Greetings, community. My name is Brandon Lane. It's an honor to serve as an equity facilitator. I am the Director of Programming for the Black Male Educators Alliance of Michigan. And I think conversations like these are important because I believe we have a responsibility to one another. I think we share a common conviction that we are all connected despite genotype or phenotype. We share a collective responsibility to keep one another, and participating in conversations like these affirm that conviction. Conversations like these are important to create space and opportunity and encourage hope. It may be countercultural to engage in conversations such as these where individuals are deeply committed to fairness, and even more abnormal for businesses or major corporations to provide a table, take a seat with community members to demonstrate unity and allyship. It is an honor to our progress and a call to think rigorously about what equity really means for various community members and take action. It's important to have conversations from the lens of a Black male educator because research suggests that recruiting, engaging, and developing more Black male educators will increase learning outcomes for all children. And finally, I think conversations like these are important as a father. Set an example for my son and my daughter to follow or even trailblaze as an advocate and active community member standing for humanity and equitable outcomes for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for joining us today and sharing a bit about your experiences in answering this question. We appreciate that. All right, y'all, we are moving on to question 3. This is our last self-reflection question of the day. So when you think about your friends, your family, your colleagues, are conversations like this common already? Take a minute to think about that. Why or why not do you think that is? And just as last time and as always, please feel free to use that chat to put your answer in and have a conversation with someone in the chat. I'm going to give you all about 30 more seconds to wrap up your thoughts before we bring up our next facilitator to share their response. All right, y'all, we're going to wrap up this question. Thank you for engaging in the chat. At this time, I'm going to bring up Jennifer Johnson, who is one of our facilitators, to share the answer to this question. When you think about your friends, family, and colleagues, are these conversations common? Why do you think that is? Jennifer?
Thank you, Stephanie. And good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Jennifer Johnson, and I am so honored and privileged to be a community roundtable facilitator for the 21-Day Equity Challenge. My spouse, Brian, and I, we share a company, Johnson Transformative Equity Group, LLC, where we assist organizations with racial equity and social justice research and data solutions. As owners of the company, we are proud and committed equity champions for the 21-Day Challenge. When I think about friends, family, and colleagues, equity, which is basically intentional and authentic equity, is a consistent subject, mainly because we live in the intersections. We live in all of these intersections, each and every one of us, of diversity daily, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our gender, our identity, our socioeconomic background, and so forth. We are impacted by equity weekly, if not daily. And I speak with this with my children. I have a brand new 16-year-old daughter. She turned 16 today. I have a 9-year-old son, and then even my next door neighbors and my friends, even people who I just come in contact with on a daily basis. Equity, we always talk about what is the most equitable solution for a situation. Sometimes the equity we experience might be actually inequitable. And such as like an appraisal of a house, for example, being set lower because one of us might be Black or Middle Eastern or Latino or any of our beautiful hues that make up our human race. Yet, actually, just yesterday evening, an organization in which I serve on this board of directors, Affirmations LGBTQ Community Center in Ferndale, we had a bi-weekly DEI meeting in which we chose to take a deeper dive and study, interact with, and gather research in basic terms, be intentional in learning about population groups that are not necessarily grounded in our own personal identity. And that's what it really takes right there. We know that some segments of our learning might become uncomfortable, and that's okay, because when you're uncomfortable, guess what? That's where learning thrives. And so I intentionally did not choose anything that had to deal with being a Black woman, being a mom. I chose something completely out of my comfort zone. And that's what I talk about with my friends, with my peers, with my colleagues, with my children. And you're never too young to learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we're all living here. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I am so honored to be on this United Way 21-Day Equity Challenge, and let's get to work.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yeah, let's certainly get to work over these next 21 days. Before we move on, I do want to just thank one more time all of our facilitators who just joined us. So Siobhan, Brandon, Jennifer, thank you so much for not only sharing, but sharing so powerfully and so authentically. Can truly feel and hear that you all are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only for yourselves, but for your community and for the people that are in your lives. So thank you for working so hard each and every day to transform our world and make it a better place for each person. Now, a reminder for all of you, this was a guided reflection, but you have the opportunity to reflect throughout the whole 21 days. Every single day in those emails you'll receive from us, there is reflection questions at the bottom. So we encourage you to continue on through your own self-reflection throughout the whole challenge. Now we're going to move on to a pre-challenge survey. So here at United Way, we want to make sure that we understand what it is that folks are learning and growing from over the course of these 21 days. So we're asking you to please fill out this pre-challenge survey. You can find it on our website at unitedwayscm.org/equity survey. It's also going to get dropped in the chat for you to click that link. We're going to give you about 2 minutes here to actually take some time to fill out that survey yourself in this space. And so again, we're going to use this survey to measure growth and learning, but we're also going to use it to figure out how we can better support the community and offer equity programming in the future. So please take about 2 minutes, follow that link in the chat, and we're doing that right now so that you can take that time to fill out the Equity Challenge survey. All right, y'all, I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds to fill out that survey. If you're not finished yet, that's totally fine. I hope you found the link and navigated to it successfully. Go ahead and save it if you need to come back to it later. The link's gonna actually stay open until early next week as well, in case you are not finished. At this time, it is my pleasure to hand the event right back over to Dr. Chanel Hampton, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Strategic Community Partners. Dr. Hampton is a wonderful resource and a beautiful light in our community. So Dr. Hampton, can you please bring us home?
Of course, and thank you, Steph, Andre, and Tanya, as well as Shaban, Jennifer, and Brandon for sharing your reflections and making the commitment to help us foster and facilitate conversation over the next 21 days. And as we wrap up our time together with this kickoff for the 21-day challenge, I'm really excited that we are going to be ending on this note. So many of you may be familiar with Detroit Youth Choir, not just here locally in Southeastern Michigan, but even nationally because of their debut and time on America's Got Talent. DYC just reminds me every day of the brilliance and power of our young people, their talents and their gifts. So shortly, you will see a brief video and surprise for Detroit Youth Choir.
One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we'll be sure, we'll be sure. Oh, glory, 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 glory. Oh, glory, glory.
If you're black and you're proud, hands up. If you wanna make a change, I'm my leader, stand up.
Look, I'm tired of seeing my people on the news, texting my friends, hoping they okay too.
And yeah, we get that all lives matter, but I ain't get to choose the color of my skin, so how does that matter? Your job is to serve and protect me, so where's the protection? Not only down from racism and COVID infections.
Can't get snatched like Trayvon, get some sleep like Brianna. The more they kill us off, we're losing our mothers and fathers.
When will enough be enough? I shouldn't be afraid that I'm next to go and handcuff.
Look, it's time to team up and stop the cruelty.
Yeah, my board is up and I see him walking towards me.
Walking, yelling no justice, no peace.
Kneeling, until my people with equality.
One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we'll be sure, we'll be sure. Glory, 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 glory. Now the war is not over, victory isn't won. We'll fight on to the finish, then when it's all done, cry glory, oh glory, oh glory, oh glory, we'll cry glory, oh glory,
Something must be done as soon as possible. And if we come together, we're unstoppable. If you red, white, yellow, green, or blue, this isn't just our fight, nah, it's yours too. More than being enslaved like my ancestors. It's time that we expose the country's transgressions. We're the future, not the past. It's time to steal the present. Unity is what we wishing for as a present. We doing Zoom calls, protests, rallies, and more. The bigger we are in numbers, yeah, we can even the score. It's no longer 2020, so let us make that clear. This the last generation they mess with fear. And when we get old, the stories will be on repeat. Fighting for our rights and masters, trying to keep 6 feet with my hands and yours to get our justice and peace. Mister, it's time to come together on our own.
One day, when the glory comes,
we can be one.
My name is Anthony White, Director of the Detroit Youth Choir. We are dedicated to offering young people a world-class performing arts experience. We are honored to be a part of the United Way for Southeastern Michigan 21-Day Equity Challenge. Join us because
together we stand united for equity.
I don't know about you all, but every time I hear and experience our amazing young people at Detroit Youth Choir, I get chills and find myself emotional. I think, them singing this song and this rendition, particularly to help us kick off the 21-Day Equity Challenge, it truly embodies the essence and spirit of this journey that we'll be on for the next 21 days and beyond. And as we close out today, we want to just remind you of a couple last calls to action. So shortly on your screen, you'll see a couple reminders come up. So first, there's still time to join. You'll see a link in the chat, whichever platform you're on. Invite 2 people to join you today. They can get that daily content. They can engage in conversations. Please invite 2 people to join us. And next, if you have signed up for our weekly conversations, remember, join us every Friday. We will have a weekly conversation from 12 to 1 each Friday for community members to process and reflect and engage in conversation together. And if you can't join us for those weekly conversations, we do recognize they're in the midst of the day, possibly during a lunch hour, but we also will have a culminating event. And so that culminating event is going to be Friday, June 18th, also at 12 to 1. So if you're a community member that has signed up and has accepted the challenge or are planning to accept the challenge, just know Fridays at 12 is where you can find us. Thank you so much for accepting this challenge. Thank you for inviting others to join this challenge. And thank you for the work ahead, personally and collectively, that we'll do and the journey that we'll take over the next 21 days and beyond together. And don't forget, as you engage in the challenge, feel free to share your reflections, pictures, various assets on social media, and use the hashtags. Each day, you'll receive a daily email reminder prompt from us, and we look forward to engaging with you over the next 21 days on this journey. So we hope you have enjoyed this time together. We're so excited to kick off this 21-Day Equity Challenge, and we hope you enjoy your weekends. We look forward to joining you on this journey for the next 21 days. Have a wonderful weekend.